My name is Emma Carter. I was 26 years old when my family finally pushed things too far. The night before my interview at one of the most prestigious medical schools in the country, my younger sister Chloe walked into the laundry room holding a bottle of bleach. I had just laid my navy blazer across the ironing board. Without saying a word, she unscrewed the cap and poured the bleach straight down the front. The liquid hissed against the warm fabric. Orange stains spread across the jacket like fire. I stood frozen. My mother barely glanced up from her phone. "Stop being dramatic, Emma," she said. "It's only a jacket." My father took a sip of wine. "Your sister has enough stress already. Don't make tonight about you." That moment should have shocked me. Instead, it felt familiar. Because in our family, Chloe had always been the chosen daughter. I grew up in a wealthy suburb outside Boston. My father, Richard Carter, worked in finance. My mother, Diane, sat on charity boards and spent most of her time organizing events and social gatherings. From the outside, we looked perfect. Inside, everything revolved around Chloe. If I earned an award, Chloe's smile became the topic of conversation. If I succeeded, people were reminded how talented Chloe would someday become. I learned early that attention was something I was expected to surrender. When I was 16, I announced that I wanted to become a doctor. My parents reacted as though I had suggested becoming a movie star. My mother smiled politely. My father called it unrealistic. A week later, I overheard them telling friends that Chloe planned to study medicine. Chloe was 13. That was the first time I realized my family had already written our futures. Chloe was supposed to be the doctor. I was supposed to support her. They simply forgot to ask what I wanted. So I stopped asking permission. I applied to college. On my own, I earned admission through scholarships and loans. While other students spent weekends relaxing, I worked jobs to cover expenses. By graduation, I had earned honors in biology without a dollar of help from my parents. After college, I joined a pediatric oncology program at a children's hospital. My role was helping families navigate treatment, paperwork, and language barriers. The pay wasn't impressive, the work was. 2 months after starting, I walked into room 4B and met a little girl named Mia Alvarez. She was 7 years old. She had leukemia. Her mother sat in the corner crying quietly. Maya sat upright in bed, trying to look brave. The doctors had just explained her treatment plan, but her mother was overwhelmed and confused. I sat beside them and translated everything into Spanish. Then I took Mia's hand. "You're going to have some hard days," I told her gently, "but we're going to face them one at a time." Mia squeezed my hand. Neither of us knew it then, but that small moment would change the course of my life and eventually destroy the lies my family had spent years building. Over the next 2.5 years, Mia Alvarez became one of the most important people in my life. What began as a routine patient assignment slowly turned into something much deeper. I read books to her during chemotherapy sessions. I helped explain medical updates to her mother. On difficult days, I simply sat beside her and listened. Mia loved stories. Her favorite was Charlotte's Web. Whenever treatment left her exhausted, she would ask me to read a few chapters aloud. Some afternoons, she fell asleep before I finished. Other days, she stayed awake and asked questions about everything. One spring morning, after 2 days of severe nausea, she sat near the hospital window watching the sunrise. The room faced east. The orange light spilled across her blankets. Mia smiled weakly. "The sun came back," she whispered. Then she looked at me. "I'm still here." I never forgot those words. Neither did her mother, Sophia. By then, Chloe was attending college. Unlike me, she had every advantage imaginable: private tutors, expensive test preparation programs, professional admissions consultants, hospital shadowing opportunities arranged through family connections. At dinner parties, my mother proudly described Chloe as a future physician. Listening to her, strangers would have assumed Chloe spent every day caring for sick children. The truth was very different. Meanwhile, Mia's condition worsened. After a brief period of improvement, the leukemia returned. The relapse changed everything. The treatment options became fewer. The conversations became harder. Hope never disappeared completely, but it became fragile. Still, Mia fought. She watched every sunrise she could. She smiled whenever visitors entered her room. She worried more about her mother than herself. In the spring of 2024, I began drafting my medical school personal statement. For years, I had postponed applying because I wanted to remain with Mia through her treatment. Now, I finally felt ready. While writing, I described the lessons Mia had taught me. I wrote about her courage. I wrote about her mother. I wrote about the hospital room that faced east and the sunrise she watched, even when she could barely eat. The document was the most personal thing I had ever written. After finishing, I saved it in the family Google Drive account I had used since high school. Then I forgot about it. Months passed. In October, Mia asked her mother for a pencil and a sheet of paper. Together, they wrote a short letter. Mia wanted it delivered someday to the people responsible for choosing future doctors. She wanted them to know what kind of person she believed I was. A few weeks later, Mia passed away. She was only 9 years old. Her funeral was small. Her mother attended. The nurses attended. Several hospital staff members attended. My family did not. 3 weeks later, Sophia arrived at my apartment carrying a garment bag. Inside was a navy blazer she had once worn to an important interview. "I want you to have it," she said. "Mia would want you to wear something strong when you apply to medical school." I accepted it with the tears in my eyes. That blazer became one of my most treasured possessions. I had no idea that while Sophia was honoring her daughter's memory, someone else had already stolen pieces of Mia's story, and the betrayal had begun inside my own family. I submitted my medical school applications in the fall of 2025. A few months later, an interview invitation arrived from one of my dream schools. The interview was scheduled for February 2026. 3 days before it, my mother called. "Come home for dinner," she said. "We want to celebrate." Against my better judgment, I agreed. That decision led directly to the night Chloe destroyed my blazer. After the bleach soaked through the fabric, I carried the ruined jacket upstairs and sat on the edge of my bed. I stared at the stain for nearly an hour. At first, I felt angry. Then something else occurred to me. Chloe wasn't acting confident. She was acting terrified. The next morning, I wore the damaged blazer anyway. I drove to New Haven before sunrise. By the time I arrived, I had accepted that there was nothing I could do about the stain. I would simply tell the truth if anyone asked. My first interview went well. The second was with Dr. Nathan Hale, the Dean of Admissions. When I entered his office, he shook my hand and studied me for a moment. His eyes paused briefly on the bleach marks. Then he asked a simple question. "Tell me about a patient who changed your understanding of medicine." I immediately thought of Mia. For several minutes, I told him everything. Her diagnosis, her mother, the hospital room facing east, the sunrises, the courage she showed every day. Dr. Hale listened without interrupting. When I finished, he slowly stood up. He walked to his desk, opened a drawer, pulled out a folded piece of paper. Then he looked directly at me. "Emma," he said quietly, "are you talking about Mia Alvarez?" My heart skipped. "Yes." He stared at me for another second. Then he said words I will never forget. "I've been waiting over a year to meet you." He unfolded the paper. It was Mia's letter, the one she had written before she died. The letter her mother had asked someone to deliver. Dr. Hale read it aloud. "To the people who choose doctors, please choose Emma Carter. She held my hand when I was scared. She explained things when my mom didn't understand. She reads stories to me. She is already a doctor in the ways that matter. Love, Mia." By the time he finished reading, neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then, Dr. Hale revealed something even more shocking. Another applicant had already used parts of Mia's story in a previous admissions essay. That applicant was currently enrolled at the school. The details matched my personal statement almost word for word. The sunrise, the hospital room, the exact descriptions. Someone had copied them, and after comparing the applications, the admissions office had begun asking questions. I already knew the answer before he said the name. Chloe. Somehow, she had gained access to my personal statement draft. Somehow, she had used Mia's story as her own. Dr. Hale explained that a formal investigation could be opened if I chose to cooperate. I left his office in a daze. That evening, I called my mother. I asked one question. Did Chloe use Mia's story in her application? The silence that followed told me everything. For the first time in my life, I wasn't searching for proof. I was listening to guilt, and guilt had just answered me. The investigation moved quickly. Within days, I gathered every piece of evidence I could find. Hospital records confirmed I had spent more than 1,000 hours working directly with Mia and her family. Visitor logs showed Chloe had barely spent any time in the pediatric oncology unit at all. Most importantly, she had never met Mia, not once. Then another piece of evidence surfaced. My father called unexpectedly. His voice sounded exhausted. "There's something you need to see," he said. We met at a small cafe. Without speaking much, he handed me his phone. On the screen was a conversation between him and my mother. Months before Chloe submitted her application, my mother had opened my personal statement draft. She had read every word. Then she discussed sending it to Chloe. One message stood out. "Emma isn't applying this year. Chloe needs stronger material. Emma can write something else later." I felt sick reading it. My own mother had knowingly handed my work to my sister. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was documented. A week later, I returned to my parents' house. I wasn't there to argue. I was there to find something. Months earlier, Mia's mother had given my mother a drawing meant for me. I had never received it. I went upstairs, opened my mother's dresser, and there it was, hidden beneath folded scarves, a pencil sketch drawn by Mia. It showed a little girl holding hands with a woman beside a hospital bed. On the back, written in shaky handwriting, were 5 simple words. For Emma when she graduates. I slipped the drawing into my coat pocket. Then I walked downstairs. My family was waiting. I placed the sketch on the dining room table. The room went silent. No one denied anything. No one could. A few days later, the medical school's ethics committee held its hearing. Witnesses testified. Hospital records were reviewed. Mia's mother appeared by video call and confirmed everything. Then Dr. Hale read Mia's letter aloud. Again, the room fell silent. For the first time, Chloe stopped making excuses. The facts were undeniable. Weeks later, 2 separate letters arrived. The first came from the admissions office. I had been accepted. After years of work, sacrifice, and doubt, I was finally going to medical school. The second letter delivered the committee's decision. Chloe was dismissed. Her admission had been obtained through academic dishonesty and misrepresentation. The consequences were final. My mother blamed me immediately. She claimed I had ruined the family. But the truth was simpler. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply stopped protecting a lie. Several months later, I visited Sophia. We talked about Mia for hours. Before I left, Sophia took my damaged blazer and carefully stitched a small white letter inside the lining. Just one letter. M for Mia. The bleach stain remained on the outside. The memory remained on the inside. That fall, I moved to New Haven to begin medical school. The framed drawing hung in my apartment. The blazer rested beside the door. Sometimes people asked why I kept a ruined jacket. I always smiled because it wasn't ruined. It reminded me that character matters more than reputation. Truth lasts longer than privilege, and a little girl who watched the sunrise from a hospital window changed more lives than she ever knew. In the end, Mia's story wasn't stolen. It was heard, and that made all the difference.